Right, welcome back to another day and yet another video. This is another video on the beautiful 550XR. I must admit I really do quite like this bike. I keep messing with it every 5 minutes, even in its torn apart state. But today we've been doing more work on the rebuild. As you can see, the engine is gone. Now, we didn't discover any further problems with the engine, but if you remember in the last episode, we were trying to identify if there was any foreign objects in the crankcase from the piston being shattered. And we were going to order a borescope up. Well, it turns out we got about 95% of it out by eye. We sent the borescope in there, and there are a few other little bits in hard to see, hard to reach areas. As I mentioned in the last video, we were really quite lucky because the crank sits in like a U-shaped valley. So it's impossible really for any fragments to get anywhere except from in that U-shaped valley, which was quite lucky. But here's the borescope we ordered. I'll switch it on and you can show you. I can't believe I got this for what I paid. This is £28 and it's a fantastic little tool. I don't know how well the camera will show up on this, but it's a 1080p screen. You can alter the brightness of the LEDs. And it's worked fantastically today. The batteries lasted all day. I'll leave a link to this in the description because for the money it really is a fantastic little tool. I've always thought about getting one of these for inspecting things. It would have been useful on this as well. We could send this down the spark plug hole and identified it was shattered before we even tried to turn it over. But I always imagined they'd be extremely expensive, but obviously not. So yeah, good little tool. So why do we take the engine out? Well, I'm a strong believer if you're doing a job like this, especially on something as nice as this, you need to do it right. This is going to be an expensive machine. When it's finished, I'll have paid a lot for it. If I ever sell it, it'll be a lot of money. And I've spent a lot on parts as well, so I wanted to make sure it was absolutely spot on. And I couldn't do that realistically with it in the block. I couldn't be 100% sure every little piece had gone. So I took the engine out. It was fairly straightforward to remove. All I had to do was remove this mounting bracket. There were just 4 10mm bolts holding that on. And then there were 2 long 13mm bolts on each of these supports bolting the engine in. 4 bolts on these flanges for the drive shafts either side. They were easy to remove, and then obviously I just pushed them in to pull them off the block. What else did I have to remove? Obviously the cables for the starter, and that was it. Obviously I unplugged the stator case, but I'll remove that later as I'll explain in a second. So yeah, it was quite straightforward to take out. It took a bit of time because it weighed an absolute ton, and I was on my own, hence why I haven't filmed the process, because it was a very mucky, oily process and it was very heavy work, and it was awkward to film it on my own. I'd have to clean my hands every 2 seconds to film it, so apologies for that. But here is the engine, and we have done a stellar job in cleaning it, in my opinion. There's absolutely nothing left in this engine, I am 100% sure. We sent the borescope all in. To give you a reference on how long I've been checking this, it's now 6 o'clock and I started the process at 9. It's probably only an hour's work to actually remove it from the bike. So I've been extremely thorough in making sure there's absolutely nothing in this engine. So as I say, I sent the borescope in. We used the Hoover to just have a double check and hoover any little tiny bits. A chap did mention about using the Hoover, but I wasn't sure how I'd adapt it. But in the end I've taped the end around this hose. And it's worked absolutely fantastically, this rubber flexible hose. I've managed to send it in every little part of the engine, even those that weren't the U-shaped valley, just to make absolutely sure. Obviously I've checked them with the borescope as well. And once I'd done that, to make even more doubly sure, I removed the stator cover to make sure no bits had got in there, and they hadn't. But then I put it back on and filled it right up to the brim with 5 litres of automatic transmission fluid, which has quite a high level of detergents in. Then I unbolted at the bottom the oil strainer plate and removed the oil strainer and let all that oil dump straight out. And then I filled it again with just standard quad oil right to the top again and dumped it out again. Then I repeated that 5 times, each time filtering what oil came out through my filter funnel. And then I did one final flush with, again, brand new oil. We've got a lot of little tiny pieces out, as you can see in there. There's a hell of a lot of little metallic components, and also a lot in the funnel. So I'm completely confident this engine is completely clear of any foreign objects. Oil was able to pass through freely. To make doubly sure, I put compressed air in every little origin. I used the oil gallery port here to blow out through all the oil galleries and through out the strainer plates. And by the way, you couldn't get to this strainer plate in the bike, so that was another reason I wanted to remove the engine, to make sure there was nothing in there. But yeah, so I'm 100% confident there's absolutely nothing in this engine at all. And some may disagree with me, but I think that's the most important part of this rebuild, making sure there's nothing in there, and there isn't. It's completely clear. I'll try and show you a little bit. I wanted to actually put the boroscope footage on, but the boroscope didn't have a... well, it does have an SD card slot, but I didn't have an SD card for it, so I'll just have to show you a bit by eye. But as you can see, it's spotless clean in there. There's absolutely no metallic components at all. Down this end, it's completely clear. There's nothing on the gears. So yeah, this engine is ready to start putting back together. And another bonus of having taken it out is I can build this engine back up out the bike and then put it back in complete. So it's a matter of plug and play once I put it back in. The stator cover I've left off, or should I say removed again, because I'm going to replace the gasket before I put it back in. This gasket is in good condition, and I'm quite surprised really, because every component I've taken off this, the gasket has stayed in one piece, which they must be half decent quality. But yeah, I'm going to replace that gasket just to make doubly sure. So yeah, that's really the end of this video. It may not look like we've achieved a lot to you in the 9 hours I've been working, but it's just for my own peace of mind. I know that every little piece is out of this engine. I've even broken my back by flipping it and doing the same and shaking it about. It's been a lot of work, but I think it was worth it to make sure. So yeah, a lot of progress made in my mind. The parts have all been ordered. They came to about £850 for genuine parts, but they should be coming in the end of this week. So stay tuned, and I will shortly have a video of building it back up. So yeah, see you in the next one.